Scratch balls.
Yeah. Yep. Yep, that's it. Right there, you found it.
I found it.
You found the solution. That should be the link to the playtest for the two new classes that Pathfinder released, um, 2 weeks ago,
Oh,
even though they just released the playtest last month, which would have been like 3 weeks ago. So yeah, they released a class and then they decided they were gonna have two fully fleshed out classes immediately release a week after it, just to need a playtest. I don't.
it's okay. By the time we release any of the classes we make, we'll have ended up creating four because we have to keep pivoting every couple of months.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We definitely have 8 class concepts we could just go back and do real quick.
Right. Well, like freaking. Also, I just find it funny. It's like the class names are exemplar and then fucking animist.
Yeah, I believe that's what it is. Yeah. Also, um, Gregory, I hate to say it, but uh, basically what I've learned is fuck precedents when it comes to path. Like, not like fuck precedents like it isn't important, but just every time they do a new class in Pathfinder, they introduce something new. Like they do something that normally wouldn't be okay. Like the Animus spells per day, where they have like the notation of like the 2+2. That's completely new notation.
Oh,
Yeah, that they introduced. The key terms thing is showing up more. Also, the key terms for Animus is basically half a page. And it's 3 terms that just the apparition key term just takes up so much. I know it's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
so what you're telling me is, I think what I got out of that, weirdly enough, was exactly what you said, which is fuck precedents.
Correct. Yep. We're just like in 5e isn't very creative. Like the mechanics play around this. Like when new content comes out, it's still like the same mechanics, just like moved around. You know what I mean? New
Yeah,
name,
no.
moved around. But like Pathfinder says, nah, we're just gonna add new content to the game and add new stuff. You do.
Well, that's why all our cool ideas are always taken because any kind of outside the box thinking. Oh, well, we already had that outside the box thinking. In fact, here's another box outside the box, outside the box, outside the box, outside the box,
It's a lot of boxes.
outside of the house.
You know,
We're not even. Oh, did you see the totally hella hairline topic change, ball scratching? Um, Rick and Morty season seven's trailer.
I did not. I did not. No.
It's a little weird.
Yeah. I mean, they got the whole like new voice actors because they fired.
Justin Roland or whatever his name was. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Morty, you can't tell
Rick, you can.
at times. So the
Okay.
voice actor can do Rick's low voice decently well. Rick's high voice stuff, not as much.
I got you. I got you. Do they have like some like throwaway joke explaining the voice difference?
I have no idea. The trailer didn't do as much, didn't do anything, but I'm sure there'll be something.
Yeah. Morty would be like, "Oh, geez, Rick, why do you sound so strange?" And I'd be like, "Shut the fuck up, Morty."
Actually, this would crack. Sounds strange.
Oh,
Ever since I swallowed a black man.
interesting. What do you mean by that?
I don't actually know, to be honest with you.
It's okay. You're just a little racist. It's okay. We're all
No, not
racist
a little.
together. I like race cars too, Barry. Because race car backwards is race car.
Oh, it's one of those things that's got a name I forgot.
Well, I created a Python script that detected them. And so obviously I would know based off of
Palindrome.
palindrome. That sure is what it is. Where did I save those
Hey,
scripts?
Mary Beth just walked in and just had all the answers as usual.
Yeah, the tracks. Yeah, my palindrome
What are you
detector.
looking for? It probably is. It is.
Yeah.
It is. No. Hey, kid, here you go. My ass almost cramped doing that.
Interesting. What do you mean by that? What are
I
you
mean what I said. My ass
trying
cramped.
to imply?
Or I can't see your face. I'm sorry. Sometimes
Oh,
my phone will show video, and then other times it won't, and I don't understand what makes the difference.
well, currently my Discord isn't showing my video either, so um, it's not just a you thing. Let's see. Let's get in. Oh, nice. Is that a peace sign? Is are you trying to make peace? Yeah, thumbs up. Are you saying words or are you just oh me? Come hook hook man rowing boat with finger. Me oh me very me pointer phone screen rubbing. Okay, so my video broadcast isn't. My entire Windows search is just deciding that it wants to like die. So I'm just gonna use my webcam without the NVIDIA um and see if that works. Hi. Hello.
Oh, it's buffering.
Oh, hi. Hello.
Hello.
Do you
Shalom.
shalom? Let me quickly read this text. I'm gonna have to reply to this, but then I'll be good. Oh, there
Oh,
goes. That made me sad. What was that for?
it was too much effort to hold up the phone.
Oh, okay.
It's okay. You'll get to see my ugly mug in a few days.
That is true. So you're not even gonna get off the couch.
It would require a miracle.
All right. All right. Cool. Cool. Cool.
I do plan on I plan on contributing. In what way I'm not sure, but I'm here to contribute.
Able to get thing until like
I figured I'd
too
wait for you
much.
to finish up your thing first.
Cool.
I'm still there.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to get this squared away.
Yeah, you're good.
So
You're good.
then
No, take your
it's
time. I just want to make sure that I hadn't lost you or something. Yeah, take your time.
yes.
Oh,
You lost me to
I'm good.
the. Right. So when you're eating enchiladas and you
Mm-hmm.
stick your tongue into the gooey meaty goo, meat goo, goo,
Sure.
how doobie do it do? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I just don't see how it's relevant to anything really.
That is me. And a little disrespectful, if I'm being honest. I I don't know what you mean by you don't know what it means.
What about if you were being dishonest?
Huh? If I was being dishonest? What do you mean?
I mean, just the reverse.
I guess it'd be fine.
Cool.
All right. Okay, so anyways,
Yes.
getting to I don't know what that preamble was for the past
Don't either.
10 minutes, 15 minutes, but it's fine. Um, this is drugs. Now, anyways. So, Chimera. How do we feel about that name? Still liking it? Still digging it?
I would say because it had occurred to me every now and again throughout the day. I think Chimera still sounds good to me. How about you?
Well, I actually talked on the phone with father this morning and discussed it with him, linked him the video. Was like, if you want to hear Gregory and I chat about Reaper for like 3 hours, here you go. He was like, "Oh, is it live? Like it's gonna happen?" I was like, "No, like it already happened." He went, "Oh, then yeah, you can comment if you want." Um,
It's good to be live.
I'll Twitch it up. Don't tempt me. I'll live stream and record, and then I'll have the recordings
We'll
post to
do it.
YouTube.
We'll do it live. We're doing it live.
Yeah. Anyways, any Hoosers. So Chimera still solid with me. I still like it. I still think it's cool conceptually. I think it
I
fits
assume you
in
brought
the
up the fact that
roster.
you told Dad. I figured you brought up the fact that you told Dad it to be like the Dad had an opinion about it.
Oh, I just meant that I was also thinking about it throughout the day. Because like I brought it up to
Uh,
dad, but no, like he didn't know what a chimera was. So he was about the only person I think I've ever met who didn't. It's not a bad thing. It's just a noteworthy thing of so I did have to explain to him what a chimera was and then why it was relevant to the class. But he was like a chimera, is that spelled with a K? And I was like, nope, it's CH, like the Greek monster. He was like, the what? I was like, the Greek monster. And then I talked about the lion goat, dragon, snake thing.
well, to be fair, Dad's definitely probably the edge case in this instance.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. It wasn't concerned to me. Um, and just it was part of the conversation that just clues you into the conversation. To be fair, but no. So I talked about it with Dad. Dad loved the direction the class is headed in now. He thought it was really exciting.
Well, that's cool.
He also saw the Siler reference.
Nice.
Yeah. So we're making the Siler class.
I mean, it is kind of that's kind of in some ways the sales pitch
Yeah.
idea of like what is the character, not cliche, but the character
Oh my
archetype. There we go.
gosh,
Archetype.
Gregory. Wait, sorry, adding on to it. Remember, how I just said fuck precedents? There's some precedents kind of for what we're doing.
Interesting. Do tell.
Not exactly in the way you think. Remember the comparison I made to a magic item?
Yeah.
Remember, Pathfinder just recently released an archetype that was all about like a magic item you like buy into or something like that. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, because wasn't that like your justification for one of the Dre Z heritages?
It may have been. Yeah, I've completely forgot about that. Draconis that
Yeah,
has the
like
whole like
the
item that gives the thing. Yeah, it probably
yeah.
was. But I totally forgot about that until just this moment. Um, which again, there's that whole likening of the whole getting a monster's ability to a magic item and having that be part of a class magic item is literally what that archetype is. Um,
Hmm.
let me see if I can find it really quickly to make sure I'm not completely out of my mind. Uh, archetypes, artifacts. Archetype artifacts are powerful items that grant access to archetype feats linked to the artifact. Once an archetype artifact is invested, it can't be removed or uninvested by normal means. Gaining possession of an archetype artifact and investing it gives you access to its related archetype feats in the same way that taking the dedication feat for a standard archetype allows you to choose its feats whenever you gain a class feat. A character can invest only in one archetype artifact at a time. Attempting to invest in additional fails. Claims you artifacts claim over you outweighs the seconds. No benefits are granted. Yada yada yada. But anyways, yeah. So magic items and class levels do things. Yee.
Yeah.
Yee. So that's neat. Like I don't know if that makes you feel better or not about the thing.
Well, I mean, precedence is always encouraging. Don't get me wrong, it's one of those things where like the class, I guess it depends on like what is the bounds or constraints on like the class magic item, like or that concept.
Oh, of like what exists now? Well, they're they're artifacts. So these are artifacts that you then get and then you have access to um the different feats you can take. But it's like the whole and they like you gain new stuff. Like when you get the Gelid shard, which is an artifact, you can take Burst Frost, which gives you like cantrips, and then you can take Snowcaster, um, which does uh, you gain basic spellcasting. You gain spell slots from this archetype. You get Snow Step, where snow and ice are no hindrance. You could get like Frozen Breadth. You can get Winter's Embrace, where you gain a +1 stats bonus to saving throws against effects that inflict dazzle. Anyways, it wasn't what I feel like it's not specifically about the fact because it is specific magic items that give you these archetypes, but it's the whole idea of an external thing linking to class levels. Like this is an archetype, so you take this you get this archetype by encountering something. Like you can't again, it's that whole thing of balance based off of the encounters you're put in, right? And gaining class power from an encounter. Do you see what I mean? Are you asleep? Hello? Hello. Hello, Gregory. Gregory.
What?
Gregory.
Yes, yes, I'm here.
Do you fall asleep?
No.
Okay, so what were you doing?
I was trying to think through something, and I think I got lost in thought.
Oh, that's fair. Sorry. I know that you like hyper focus off and then can't hear people because you've always done it, but
Right,
the
but
problem
there's
is I can't see your face. So I didn't know that's what you were doing, where you completely tuned out the world like Sherlock. You're an autist. You just are. You're like Sherlock or like Monk. You got your little mindscape.
yeah, except I don't visualize things like that, so it it's just a scape of
Sadness.
yeah.
Yeah. I meant that as a compliment. I realize saying you're a little autist probably doesn't sound great, but
it's it's
then I
fine.
likened you to Sherlock, so I
No,
hope
I'll
it
take it.
balances out. Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Anyway,
But
so
yeah, no.
what was the last thing you heard me say?
The last thing I heard you say was we were talking about the concept of like the bounds of like the magic item built into the current precedents, like of like with like the archetype that you were discussing
Mhm.
that did that, and then I think you just went silent, or I did fall asleep, one of the two.
No, I basically just to cap it to make sure we're on the same page. The precedence is the whole idea of an encounter like power that is external from player choice, if that makes any sense, of getting the ability of a powerful monster is on the DM the same way getting an artifact archetype is on the DM. The player has no
Right,
choice
you
over
started
what it.
talking about an artifact. That's what you were starting to say, right? You were mentioning
Well, that's
it's
what
an
they are. That's the
artifact.
kind of archetype. There's multiple artifact archetypes, but artifact archetypes are archetypes which are happen because of an item.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because of an artifact, and then you're able to take levels. But regardless of exactly how it works, it's literally you have encounter. The reward for that encounter or some quest is this artifact, and then you are able to gain power because, like, class power, because you take levels in an archetype in order to gain power, class power because,
Yeah.
bless you, of an encounter or like a quest. And so it's that whole concept of like, if the DM puts the player in a situation where they, because artifacts are powerful, man. Like, is you good?
Yep. I just bear in mind I sneezed an incredible amount just now. Continue.
Fair enough. Artifacts are like, if I remember correctly, they're the top tier magic items. At least that's how it is in D and
That's
D. Like that's the highest levels artifact.
yeah, I that sounds right.
So if the DM puts the player in a line in a setup where they can get an artifact, they then gain class features because of that artifact, right? And so that is DM reliant. And that was kind of the argument I was trying to make with the balancing of the class gaining just straight abilities for monsters is it's the whole thing of like the whole magic item approach of they are gaining class power because of the situation that the DM put them in. And that's the same thing with this magic item archetype. And what I'm saying is this is basically saying that that whole concept is okay in the balance of Paizo. Because there's no
Right.
level
No,
requirement for this. It's just you have the item.
right. Well, I mean, don't. Well, I mean, do you just gain the archetype feat as a result of the event occurring of getting
No,
the item?
no. When you have the powerful item, uh, you can, yeah. Gaining possession of an archetype artifact and then you invest into it gives you access to its related archetype feats. So if you can only be invested in one at a time. So it's like attuning to a magic item, but you can only attune to one of these at a time. You can't have two and gain power from two.
All right, that said, even though you can invest in 10 items at once, she says in the background.
Yeah. I'm specifically speaking about archetype artifacts, though, in which you can invest in one.
Gotcha. Yep. Tracking, shacking and quacking. Chack quacking. Quack chacking.
Um, yes. They also, in the description of an archetype artifact, recommend the free archetype variant. I love that Paizo's just like, just give them their archetypes, man. Just give people archetypes. Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do
I
it.
mean, I did it. I did
You
it for
did
you.
it for everyone, not just for me. But
I did it for you.
oh, okay. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
Did it for
Oh, let me. Oh, that's a beautiful face you're making right there. Ah, I love you too, brother. Brother from another mother.
you. I mean, same mother, but um.
That's true. So here's the real question.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how we figure out how to give players abilities straight from monsters. It's like having a like those catch clauses in programming rather than having nested if statements. Let's catch all the errors in the arguments that just return. So in order to let me explain that analogy, um, rather than try to deduce how to make a system where they get the powers of the monster, let's first ask the question, why can't we give them just straight ability one for one from the monster stat block? And the reasons we figure out for that, we then create a fix for. And that's how we get our system. So why can't we just give them the ability straight from the monster block?
I'll ask you an even better question. Why is it fun to give them an action straight from the monster block?
Because monster abilities are the most unique.
I mean, there's something to be said there. I mean, don't get me wrong, to a certain degree, monster abilities aren't necessarily drastically different than the abilities of magic items a lot of the time.
Sure. Which I think is how it is one of the reasons it
Fine.
really? Yeah, I mean, yeah, one of the reasons like it's okay to do this. But it's unique. Again, there's that whole capturing. I appreciate you said this was a better question, but it's a completely different question. Um it's shit, I lost my train of thought. No, yeah. So it's fun because intrinsically it's like when you beat a boss in a game, and because you beat that boss, you unlock a new power, like V Rising, or many other games before it that have done a similar concept. You gain abilities
Right.
by vanquishing bosses.
Yeah, though interesting enough with V Rising, it's something where sometimes the effect you get isn't that related. Like it's something where you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
some of the abilities like tangential at best.
And that's fair.
But
Or like the boss will use that ability. Um,
right.
but that was an example. There are many games in which you beat a boss and gain an ability from doing so. That was the first one that came to mind.
No, that's fair.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, no, the reason I wanted to ask this question first is it's kind of like the whole let's figure out how to cure cancer. And it's like, actually, let's start with the question: should we cure cancer?
Hmm. Hmm. No, I know that is your favorite question. Should it be done? Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Many bad things have happened in
Well,
this world from doing something without ever questioning if we should do something.
well, I mean, part of it's the factor of it was going to be effort to figure out how to make it happen. It'd be nice to like verify that it's actually a thing worth
Effort, good
figuring
effort
out.
spent. Yeah. No, again, it's the quintessential action game drive of because it's those boosts of dopamine every time you fight a monster. And obviously, like not exactly this, we have no mechanics for the powers, but like every time you fight a big boss and you die 20 times and then you finally take it over and you get that new ability, it's a boost. And then and then coming back later. Do you know how fun it was in V Rising to go and stomp the previous bosses? That whole idea of not only taking their power, but then coming back stronger and beating their ass with their own power. Ego boost for sure. Definitely dopamine there.
No, there is something. No, I can see the appeal. So I think question number one, right,
Okay.
on the kind of exception catching is physiological based abilities,
So,
like as in like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
physical
Like
different.
using a tail to do something you don't have a tail. No, that was my first thought too. I wish I could remember what anime I'm thinking of. But again, we're talking about imprints, right?
Hmm.
So it's not necessarily that they're you're not ripping off the claws of a monster and attaching them to you, right? You're stealing this ability, but
Right.
it's almost not stands. That's not the right word. But it almost like have you ever seen that like show of like they mimic an animal and then they have like the shadow of the animal with them and like the way they're attacking isn't necessarily like they have claws, but it's like a shadow past their hand, so they're not actually like hitting them.
Vaguely, I don't know exactly what I've seen that's like that, but it sounds reminiscent
Yeah,
of
there's
something I've
stuff
seen.
like that. And so it's one of those things of like maybe the way in which it happens isn't exactly like actually happening physically from them because it is magical in nature. So like let's say the Ouroboros, which we were looking at before, which is also
Hmm.
not how you pronounce that word, that name, Ouroboros. It's something like that. Because the
It's
Ouroboros
definitely
is the thing in the sky.
no. That's the aurora borealis.
But that's how you pronounce that one. But the Ouroboros is pronounced differently, is what I'm
It's
saying.
it's not Michael. Ouroboros is how you pronounce it. I was on a product team named Ouroboros for for like a
Oh
full
yeah, it
blown
is
year.
just Ouroboros? Okay, cool. All right. Good for me.
It is Ouroboros.
Cool. Ouroboros. Like almost like you have the specter of the snake behind you for a moment, and then you like doing the swallow motion, and you're not physically swallowing them, but you're swallowing them. Not exactly necessarily that imagery, but it's the whole idea of because we're not creating a grafter class. They're not ripping off body parts and attaching them.
No, I agree with you. Don't get me wrong. I think there is an aspect of the magic can like physiologically shift you, maybe
Oh yeah,
side.
absolutely. I have no problem with that. But the whole thing is you can't justify the and that's the thing of this question. This question is really, do you want to justify it? We haven't figured out exactly how the abilities represent themselves. It is very easy to justify being able to do something that you wouldn't necessarily normally be able to physically accomplish. If we want to do this idea, we can do it. So the question shouldn't be, is that a problem? It should be, am I willing to make a solution?
Well, there's also a question of, is it worth coming up with a solution? Because like part of the question is, so how many abilities are physiologically locked? Whereas in like there's a physiological like explanation or hand waving.
Basically, any ability, I would imagine, would be physiologically locked. I also can't hear Mary Beth, and that's just how
You're
it's going to
fine.
be. Well, what if
Yeah,
I
no,
wanted to
she's
hear
fine.
Mary Beth?
Well, if you wanted to hear Mary Beth, then you should have just drove over. It's fine. Um,
Yeah.
um, I think that well, and there's also this kind of like middle ground, right? Because there's the difference between. I think when I say physiological limitation, I think of it more of how the adopted ancestry feat works, where it's like you don't have a tail and the ability requires a tail, but like if your hand is not the same shape as a tabaxi, that doesn't mean that you can't use like the climbing thing. You know what I'm saying? Or there's a difference between like it's like you're not gonna get a Scleverni pick things up with tail that you don't have ability with, adopted ancestry, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
But that's where the whole, like, again, I don't see that. I see that as a non-issue. Of It's again with, for instance, the whole like mimicking aspect of an imprint. It doesn't have to be a physical thing. It's like an idea, and so you do pick up the item with your tail, and maybe it's as simple as that. Of like, and then how you choose to represent that, whether it be like you have the visage of a tail reminiscent of like the monster that you slayed, like embodying that.
Eh, I feel like that's starting to get a little bit like into flavor territory that isn't as neat. I think it was just starting to get more into the whole like summoning the astral form of that thing in that moment, which is less
Cool. No, absolutely.
cool.
Sure. I'm just also thinking of not limiting the ability. Okay, now here's the thing. Should it necessarily be actions?
Well, I mean, like the concept I had the other night was like, the some of the basic stuff was like not actions, but like senses and stuff like that was like the
Well,
slot stuff.
yeah. I mean, there may be some justification for. Honestly, it's really easy to deal. It's really easy to deal with the physiological issue. Even if you leave it, you make it where it's like you can't have that. You just say the same thing adopted ancestry does. You cannot be given an ability that your body would not be capable of performing. However, adopted ancestry says that.
Yeah.
You have that
No,
one,
no,
and then
no,
that way
no.
you get an ability no matter what, if you're in a situation where that would happen. But there are,
Yeah, no, no.
and maybe, but that's the thing. If a monster doesn't have an action you can perform, they do have those like special attributes, like those auras and other things.
Yeah, yeah, no, I definitely. Well, I think that makes sense to be on the table, generally speaking. Anyway, That thought had occurred to me in my tired brain,
What idea?
tired,
What
idle
idea?
brain.
Oh my gosh, what idea occurred to you?
It was the idea that potentially like class feature slash subclass, however that works in Pathfinder, I forget. Um,
You
that
choose something at like the beginning of the class, and then some class feats you take have that as a prerequisite. It's kind of like how subclasses work. It's different from class to class, because again, Pathfinder just does whatever the fuck it wants.
right. I know it wasn't what you were saying, so yeah, I was just asking for my own benefit. I was saying that plausibly as a feat or something, like whether it's a sub like a praxis feat or praxis feat or something else, you could as a path have it where you could gain basically if you take on you basically gain the ability to take on an creature action that requires a physiological aspect, and you basically gain a similar physiological aspect in order for that to be possible. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that one.
Not the aura thing. Shit, why not just grow it?
Yeah, that's the version I'm saying.
Yeah. And even if the ability gets traded out later, it's very simple of just like that body part begins to decay. I don't know. If we're thinking of we basically have a tapeworm in us, you know,
Magical tapeworm.
is it not a tapeworm? It's consuming these abilities from other monsters. It's like using that inside of us, but it's also keeping us alive because it needs us to live. But it's not like sentient. It's a magical tapeworm.
Doop doop doo. Magical tapeworm.
Uh yeah, no, I mean I still don't know what Maribeth's saying. I heard Michael taking
I said I'm concerned about your understanding of tapeworms.
it's close enough, Maribeth. It's close enough.
Sure.
The unnecessary disrespect for no reason.
My face looks so pitiful.
Yeah. So, anyways,
So yeah, no, I would say that like so there's that plot that could be a feat slash oh like that could either be a main course thing or a sub
no,
variant flavor.
couldn't it just be a class feat? Like screw subclass or screw like main progression. We have class feats. Like,
Right, because you can choose class feats, right? I forget very
yeah,
much. Still forgot that.
every even leveled class level, you can choose a class feat.
I also feel like that
Yeah,
would
that sounds
work
like a
really
class feat.
well. But like some class feats say they have other class feats as prerequisites. I feel like that one would do very well for it.
I think it's good on like to just exist on its own.
Yeah, no, I mean it's one of those things we can just write it down and make it whatever it makes sense to be.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Chimera. Uh,
Chimera. You come and go. You come and go. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, growing an appendage that looks like it shouldn't belong to you in the slightest does sound reminiscent of Chimera.
It does.
Um, so that um,
So that's one way to solve it. And then I think get rid of the aura stuff of like yada yada yada. It's a simple thing of you have the you can only be given an ability that you are capable of performing. And then later on there's some way to gain this feature if you gain it, and that then expands that. Because there's
Right.
still, again, looking at our Ouroboros example, like he had Sanguine Spray, which is an attribute rather than like an action, and it's whenever you take slashing or piercing damage, blood gushes from the wound in a 15-foot cone. Each creature in the area takes 5d6 acid damage. A creature that takes any damage is exposed to the Ouroboros regenerative blood. Obviously, stuff that you don't have the other attributes for would take effect.
Right.
But yeah, that right there is an attribute that doesn't take a physiological.
So one challenge that comes to mind, maybe.
Mhm.
So like one difference between monsters and and a magic item is the whole ready access to the stats. A
Yeah.
magic item, the GM hands you an item card like have an item card. Versus is like, here, have a monster corpse and all the stats of the thing you just fought that I was trying not to like make obvious.
So Gregory, this is only a problem because you're obsessed with your pen and paper. Take a picture, crop it, send it to your friend.
I I feel like that is too many steps.
No, it's not. It's
It is.
taking a picture and sending it to your friend. It's in fact 2 steps. It's like it when you have a magic item, and you haven't printed out beforehand the magic item, and you just have the book, and you do the rolling for magic item loot table, which is an option, and then you get a list of magic items, and you're like, oh shit, I have to give these players these magic items somewhere, and you take a picture of them and send them to them.
Interesting. So just a thought I want to throw.
Of course, of course. That was my
Just
answer.
trying to just trying to avoid, peeks behind the GM screen because like seeing magic item stats is not peering behind the GM screen where monster stat blocks, however, can risk
Hmm.
a peer behind the curtain.
Of course, of course. And again, that's just me answering the edge case. I feel like it's
Yeah,
something, yeah, where you can send a. Now, granted, that only works if this is like we're talking basically straight ability ripping, where there's no modifications necessary, or if the modifications are easy to make, like damage scaling or something like that.
right. I feel like there's gonna have to be something of that effect where it's like the scaling's based off
But
of something classical
why?
for balance
But
reasons. I mean, like,
again, I asked the question of is it not intrinsically balanced because monsters have levels? If you
well,
fight
okay,
a monster at your level and you gain their ability, shouldn't their damage be.
no, you're right. I think that it's probably should be more. It's based off of the creature's level. Like, bear in mind because bear in mind the creature in question is built to attack more than one person, right?
Yes.
From a leveling standpoint, which means if you just give a player the same ability, that's not balanced, like verbatim, because it was balanced against the party, not that particular player.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you do have to nerf it at least a little
Um,
in order to avoid power creep.
I'm still not sure. Now this isn't the best example, but I looked at a Kobold Scout that's level 1,
Mhm. Right?
and they have their attack is, so you would assume it's scaled for level 1. They just have a
Right.
+9 like short sword, which obviously isn't even something you could steal, but if we assume it was a claw attack, it's +9 damage, 1d6 piercing. which is kind of the stats that we have. Let me look at a better example. Let me go to level 4. Let me look for a creature level 4. I feel like the time that this breaks down in balance, because monsters aren't necessarily made to attack multiple creatures at once. One big bad is made to attack multiple creatures at once, or have some way to shore up their defenses against it.
Right, but that level, like taking one big bad would be their level would be higher, you know. No.
Level. Alright, sure. Level 4. There you go. Interesting. Oh, yeah, he's definitely sleeping.
I'm not sleeping.
Okay.
I'm just waiting for you,
Interesting.
man.
Alright. Okay. Okay. Okay.
I figure you were rather contemplating and looking something up.
Yes, no, I was looking at Anati Sage, which is just the Anati like race. So their abilities line up pretty well for a party. Single target, damage. Okay. So here's the deal, right? We're
Mm-hmm.
talking about more than likely you're stealing a big. So class generally exists balanced with the other classes on like the power scale in the martial by itself, basically. Maybe a little weaker because it has the ability thing, right?
Right.
Um, and so that on its own is competent to fight and be on par with the other people at the table without feeling necessarily weaker when it doesn't have any abilities taken, in theory. Because you don't, or something like that, because you don't want to punish the player.
Right.
So, but maybe it's maybe limiting the ability, as in like reducing the stats, isn't the approach to weakening it, but rather limiting the ability to use those abilities.
It's another. It's basically just treating it like a leveled spell.
I
Spell level.
guess.
I mean, it's kind of, you know what I mean? Like higher level spells, harder to use, depending on what level you like how often you get to use it's lower, depending on what level you are.
Well, I guess, yeah.
I don't know, I was just starting to think of something tangentially similar. I think another thing on the same vein as well was that came to mind was oh yeah, when it comes to like punishing the player and stuff like that, right? Or
Yeah.
like trying to avoid that. Bear in mind there's a certain similar aspect to this in the fact that wizards can learn spells from scrolls, but you have to find them.
Yeah.
There's a certain degree of chimera is not like in the same way wizards don't like aren't completely boned if they never find a scroll, though it's not it definitely hurts because spell variety is one of their big things.
Yeah.
But um uh spaghetti on the wall,
Okay.
um plausibly. Wait, I think there's a general feat that lets you do this already. I was going to say, it could make a class feat where it's like Hey, I'm gonna take your ancestry feat. Another character person thing.
That is adopted ancestry, if I believe so, if I understand correctly.
Yeah. Yes. However, this would be a class feat where you gain the ancestry feat by just artificial means, where you don't have to meet the criteria of the adopted ancestry feat.
Which
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, that's what it's meant to be. A class feat that basically has a similar effect to adopted ancestry.
No, I see no issue with that.
No, it's just a class feat that allows you to take an ancestry feat. There's not a general feat in the middle there. It's a class feat that's like a general feat that lets you take an ancestry. Yeah.
No, I like it. That's gonna have to be a
Or
level
I'll take,
one, and I'm gonna have to take some set of feats.
or you might be able to take a step further and you can take a heritage feat, which I'm not sure there's a general feat that lets you do that.
Could we theoretically take a heritage straight ability, like the attribute from the attribute panel?
Maybe. Yeah, because right, these heritages aren't feats. Right. Yeah, basically it allows you to, that could be interesting. You can take a heritage.
Yeah. Like for instance, the sovereign sentinel that gets the mind reading or whatever is part of the heritage attribute.
I mean, that sounds like it could be a cool class feat.
Yeah, it does to me.
I'm trying to think of what circumstances that you can take that class feat.
The one I just said, which is what Ketzel would do, so I don't lose my mind reading.
No, I not that you would. I meant like
I
in
know, I
class.
know,
Like,
I know. Um, well, the like venom, if it's low level, I like a lower level class feat, I could absolutely see that because it's again the same way that the low levels of a class introduce the core mechanics of that class, and that's why
well, yeah, I'm just
multi-classing is
trying
so
to think
powerful in D&D.
right. It's more of like you can't just decide to gain a heritage. There's the whole, you have to access it through a creature somehow. And I'm
No,
trying to think.
it could just be region locked of like you would have had to encounter this
What is it?
species in the past, whatever. Like there are those requirements for shit in Pathfinder.
Creature. Or that.
Sure, don't get me wrong, that's getting at my point though. Like when we're talking about heritage abilities, it means you have to kill a humanoid creature of that type, which is fine. Like you're going to be killing humanoids, go figure. But
Well, again, there was the whole thought of the whole like temporarily yanking without dying.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe this
But
feat you
that,
just don't have to kill them because it's a whole thing of like resistance. I don't know. I think it might be a little hand wavy, but it's the whole thing of like you're killing them so that they don't resist the imprint. But like being deceased doesn't change your chemical makeup. So whatever's occurring that allows this imprint to occur technically is possible while they're alive. In theory. It just I imagine they wouldn't allow it to happen.
well, bear in mind, part of it is the factor of no, the imprint causes the person to disintegrate into ash.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. Whoopsies.
Hence the reason it doesn't work on the living.
Ha ha ha. Whoopsies. Whoopsies. I guess whoopsies.
So,
Yankers. Well, yeah, I mean, we kill humanoids all the time. I don't think that's a problem. I don't know if you do, but like the Dark Rider was a humanoid. We were definitely going to try to kill him. Akuji's a humanoid. We're definitely going to try to kill him.
no, I'm not worried about the opportunity. I think it's something where I'm just trying to think of the verbiage of like, Okay, actually, what it could be is it's a new slot, basically. Where if
Okay.
you take the class feat, you gain the heritage slot, which you can fill with you basically, you have the default ones, uh, the vision one and stuff.
Yeah.
You gain a heritage slot that you can take from a.
I actually really like that. If you want to play
Then you don't pick it. So, yeah, jot that down as Gregory's tired idea of success, maybe.
Cool.
This is what I was hoping for, is I'd be able to squeeze some creative ideas out, even if I'm not good for much else at the moment.
All right. Well, we are, unfortunately, you waited right until, like, I have 5 minutes left.
Well, I mean, I feel like we've had good discussion.
Oh, no, we absolutely have had good. Sorry, I meant you said like creating new abilities with the lack of juice. We've had two. That's fair. If we can make them all
Okay.
level 1 and 2 and
Yeah.
3, that'd be fantastic.
Absolutely.
All we need
I definitely.
is technically to be prime functional. All we need is 5 class features.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, the basically kind of closing thoughts are, I think there's some generic slots
Mm-hmm.
like vision, movement. Like, I think it'd be good to figure out what those are, and those overlap with every creature. Like every creature has vision, every creature has,
force that.
or senses. Like there's some sense slot, then there's some movement, maybe something fancy,
Mhm.
and that kind of thing.
Movement
And
slot, vision slot.
then there's the physiological differences slot, where it's like you have to take a feat that allows you to be able to basically take on a physiological characteristic you don't have in order to be able to gain actions, maybe. And that's the other thing, is like maybe there's a generic slot for actions that can be done without physiological changes, and the other feat opens it up to things that require physiological changes. And then there's the whole heritage slot thing, just for
Vision,
flavor fun.
movement.
And if you take
You say flavor fun. It can be mechanical. Anyways. Vision,
That's true.
movement.
And then there's the thought of the subclass accomplished through feeding, or however it works, of like temper basically modifying the class in a massive way where you actually only temporarily gain stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
yeah,
you
yeah.
could do it while the creature's still alive. And that's the trade-off, is that you'd be switching stuff more often, because you can't hold on to it for a long time.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so far we have 3 generic slots and 2 attainable slots. Let me look at a monster and see what else makes sense for a generic slot.
Yeah.
There might not be anything else, but what's it? I feel like we need a good embodies Pathfinder monster that we can like dissect.
Yeah, I would agree. Oh, let's see. Uh,
no.
If it was D&D, I'd say a red dragon or like a beholder, but it's Pathfinder.
proficiency could be interesting.
Yeah. Especially because we already have like circumstance bonus against monsters and stuff. So we already have that like bonuses to skills theoretically. Um in the way they interacts, just adding proficiency in something also kind of makes sense. Let's see.
Um, I'm recognizing too, if you're fighting a creature, there's a plausibility you can be like, hey GM, I want to gain the ability. I want to gain this thing I saw the creature doing. And so if we give the GM tools to basically be like, all right, so the class modifies it in this way, where like you don't have to hand them the character thing. It's like you gain this ability, but like they describe the thing from the monster manual, but they have the thing that allows them to balance it or whatever.
Yeah.
That might be a way to like avoid the peering behind the GM curtain.
Yeah. Okay. So this is an interesting one because not every monster has it. So it might not be able to be a generic one, but it could be an attainable one. Resistance.
Oh.
Because I mean, player characters having resistance is already baked into Pathfinder. Like, there's so many ones that give you like cold or heat or fire resistance, and then
Right.
there's like kobolds that get resistance to, like necrotic and all. So getting resistance isn't necessarily like a huge, massive thing, but it's also something where not every monster has resistances. So
Right. Right. No, that's a good point. It's even if you have natural, as Mary Beth was pointing out just now, even if you have like natural resistance, you find a creature with much better resistance, you might have an opportunity to upgrade yourself.
oh yeah, absolutely. And that's why it's a slot if you get one resistance from one creature, and if you want a different one, you have to beat a different creature.
Right. Exactly. I think there's also the thought process of we brought up the idea of you get a bonus against that specific creature, specifically depending on what slot you fill.
Yes, yes, we did. Um,
Bullet point idea is you get a special bonus if all of your slots are filled from the same creature type.
ooh,
So not by type I don't necessarily mean like trait. I mean like just that
the same
monster. So
creature,
like if
yeah.
you right. Which don't get me wrong, there's almost a part of me that feels that sounds counterintuitive to the Chimera theming of, you know, being a hodgepodge.
Well, what if it's
But it's also, however, oh, is Maribel speaking right now?
Uh, you were saying, Michael?
Well, from a mechanics perspective, it's almost like a snowball. The same way we have the idea that you get a circumstance bonus from fighting the same individual for a long time. It's a snowball mechanically because the only time you're going to really get that is if you're fighting a horde. And if you're fighting a horde, that means if depending on how long this process takes, if theoretically you're saying you're just like felling a creature, zapping it, and felling another one, you theoretically are filling up these slots, slowly gaining these bonuses until you get that special bonus from ramping up from killing that horde. Meaning it starts out weak, like average with a horde, but as it kills more in a horde, it gets stronger in power, which then ties more into that like learning and being the best at killing your prey
I,
thing.
I feel like my only concerns with that is, other than like I said, the Chimera theory and theming conflict is that feels a little edge casey to me.
Yeah,
And it also depends on the like how fast this process is, because I feel like that's probably making it too
absolutely.
fast.
Well, how fast do you think it should be? Do you think it should be, well, let's just say, should it be an activity or should it be, um, yeah, should it be an activity? Because if it's an activity, you can't do it in encounter mode, or you can't do it effectively.
Yeah, there's a part of me that thinks it should be an activity.
unless
Yeah, the temporarily but fast subclass set of feats allows it to not be an activity, but it's also not permanent. So fair enough. Um, we could do it the other way. You get a bonus by having all your slots filled with diverse.
I like that because that
That
does tie into the Chimera.
Yeah, actually, that could be an interesting class feat. You get a like that could be an interesting class feat, plausibly.
Mm,
I'm just throwing ideas. like the true chimera like feat, where it's like the idea. It's like you could even call it a true chimera or something like that, where it's like you get a bonus for having every slot filled with something different.
Yeah.
I know, but it also means that it punishes you for keeping it same. Like if you take the class, you're right. Actually, that could be interesting. It sounds stupid, but like I don't know. It's a give and take where it's like you get a bonus for having all different, and you get a penalty if they're all the same. Like you know what I'm saying? Like speaking on wall, I know that's like probably precedence breaking, but
Gregory, the beginning of this discussion was precedence is dumb.
I know, which is why I'm saying the idea anyway.
Yep.
But yeah, like right. Well, not that you can, based on the fact that it's an activity, but like
Okay.
oh yeah, right.
Figuring conversations happening right now.
Mary Beth was just saying it encourages you not to like farm, like basically take the aftermath of a horde and just like, all right, I'm taking your vision, I'm taking your movement. If you took
Oh,
the true
yeah.
chimera feat, it would be punishing you. It would want you to have a wider variety of things.
Yeah. No, I like it. So that's the interesting thing is the special bone. Normally with the slots, you get a circumstance bonus. The number is based off the slot, and then it affects those creature types. Is the special bonus that it is not affected by creature type?
That you're just effective against everything.
That actually.
That could be interesting. Yeah, mark that as a plausible idea. It would help justify the penalty cost.
Yeah.
And I remember Mary Beth did make the point of like, don't get me wrong, if it's effective against anything, there's no cost. Actually, because the problem is if it makes it effective against everything, then the fact of doing all the same is irrelevant anyway. Because you just have the superior option. Because now you're effective against everything.
However, the bonus is it wouldn't be as high. Are you able to stack bonuses if you have two? Like, let's say you had a vision and a movement, but your proficiency was different. Would you still have those two stack against that one creature?
Well, that's the thing. If they're relevant to creatures and it stacks against creatures or whatever, if it works on everything,
Well, it would only work on everything if every single one of your attributes were different.
right? But then that's way superior than like stacking all in one
But
creature.
no. I mean,
Do you see what I'm saying?
I think so. I guess there it is if the mechanics work a certain way. Like again, there's the whole do they stack? Like does it stack if it's the same creature?
I think it does. I mean, like if you get different, if you're getting it stacks just from the factor of like if like let's say hypothetically if movement gives you a circumstance bonus on evade like grapple checks against that creature or something like that, and
Okay,
then
so
your
that
vision gives you-
interesting. Okay, I see.
and so they're giving you bonuses on different things, which means it's not like stacking circumstance bonus because that doesn't work that way. But then if this true chimera thing makes it where those bonuses apply to any creature, then you get the same thing you would get if you did it for all of one creature, but now for everyone. So it just is the clearly
Effective
superior
against
option.
everything for one attribute.
I
I
it's
think you're
still
right, Gregory.
it still circles back around to what I'm saying.
I think you're in.
Well, it's not just that. It's just like the problem is like if the one attribute applies, bear in mind, if one attribute applies to all creatures and all one attributes apply to all creatures, then that means that you've technically stacked against all creatures.
No. I mean like you said, the evasion example. If you were a true Chimera, you would have increased evasion against all creatures. Like you choose specifically that one, and you wouldn't get a bonus for anything else.
Oh, as in True Chimera allows you to pick one
Yeah.
slot to have your bonus on. That could be a balancing factor. I would write that down as a plausible.
Anyways, we don't have to. It's 10 minutes past when I was planning to go. You obviously have access to this Google Doc if you want to phone type with Mary Beth or anything that happens.
Understood. Yeah, no, this was good.
Yeah. I'm gonna note
Yeah.
down resistances under generic slots because we talked about it and we didn't really iron it out, just so we don't forget about it.
Yeah, sounds like a good future topic.
But in theory, generic slots we have 5 right now: vision, movement, proficiency, resistance, capable action, and then we have the 2 achievable ones of physiology and heritage.
For the record, by the way, if you want to like have somebody shoot thoughts at you during the day while you're busy, it may not be bad to like run some of these ideas past Ryan
Yeah.
and just be like, hey, we currently run this stuff. What are your thoughts on this? Because Ryan is the kind of guy who's going to be like, well, have you considered blah 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 blah.
Well, that was words.
Though I would email him if you're gonna run stuff by him because he actually reads that.
Interesting. Oh, yeah, that tracks. I have to check my email every day for work.
Yep, a Rooney, sir. But this was a. I'm glad we did this. I'm sorry, like it was like 5% efficiency, but I feel like we got stuff still.
No, we got stuff done. I feel like we made some serious progress. Anytime we end a session and we haven't completely had to start over, I take that as a win.
For real. It's honestly fair. Sorry, I've kind of set that precedence of like expectations where it's like, oh, it's great. Gregory didn't want to completely start over today.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. All right. I'll talk to you again soon, Gregory. Get some rest. Love your wife. All the good things that you gotta do.
Will do. Thanks, sir. I love you. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.